Suddenly, as Jas walked toward it, the figure became animated and rose to a standing position. As the figure and Jas stood face to face for an instant, there was no mistaking the identity. It was Jas. All saw that it was he. Then instantly the Jas we had known had disappeared, and there was but one figure standing before us. Of course, all this was accomplished in much less time than it takes to tell, and the wonder was that not one of us questioned. The 5 who had been left behind at camp came running without a signal from any of us. We afterwards asked them why they came. The answers were, "We don't know. The first we knew, we were on our feet and running to you. We simply do not know why we did it." None of us recall any signal. We found ourselves running in your direction before any of us realized what we were doing. One of our number remarked, "My eyes are opened so wide that I see far beyond the veil of death, and the wonders that stand revealed are beyond conception." Another said, "I see the whole world overcoming death." How vividly the words come back. The last enemy, death, shall be overcome. Is not this the fulfillment of these words? What pygmies are our mere intellects in comparison with this gigantic but simple understanding, and yet we have dared to look upon ourselves as giants of intellect. Why, we are mere babes. I just began to see the meaning of "you must be born again." How true the words! I leave the reader to imagine our surprise or bewilderment. Here was a man with whom we had been in daily contact, and by whom we had been served daily, that was able to lay his body down for the protection of others, and go on and serve very efficiently. Could it do otherwise than recall, "He that is greatest among you shall be servant, or shall serve"? I think there was not one amongst us but from that moment lost all fear of death. These people are accustomed to laying a body down before a village in the jungle of a country infested with marauding men and animals, and that village is as safe from the ravages of men and animals as though it were in a civilized country. It was very evident that Jas's body had been lying where we found it for a considerable time. The hair had grown long and bushy, and in it were the nests of little birds peculiar to the country. These birds had built their nest, reared their young, and the young had flown away, thus giving unmistakable evidence of the time the body had been in that position, and inactive. These birds are very timid, and will abandon their nest at the slightest disturbance. This shows the great love and trust of the little birds. The excitement was so great that no one in our camp except Jas slept that night. He slept like a child. At intervals, one or another of our party would sit up and look over toward where Jas was sleeping, then lie down again, saying, "Pinch me to see if I am really awake." Occasionally a more forceful expression was used. Chapter 5. We were up at sunset the next morning, and that day returned to the village where we had left our outfit. We arrived at the village just before dark, and pitched our camp under a great banyan tree. The next morning Ema greeted us, and we all began asking questions. He said, "I do not wonder at your questions, and I will gladly answer all that I can at this time, leaving others until you have gone further into your work. In talking to you as I am, you fully realize that I am using your language to convey to you the one great underlying principle of our belief. When all know the truth, and it is rightly interpreted, truly it is not one and all, truly is not one and all from the same source? Are we not all one with the universal mind, substance, God? Are we not all one great family? Is not every child, every one born, no matter the caste or creed, a member of this great family? You ask if we believe death is avoidable. Let me answer in the words of the Siddha. The human body is built up from the individual cell, like the bodies of plants and animals, whom we love to call younger and less evolved brothers. The individual cell is a minute microscopic unit of the body. By a process of growth and division repeated many times, this minute nucleus of a cell unit results at last in a complete human being, built up of almost countless millions of cells. These body cells specialize for certain different functions, but they retain, in the man, the characteristics of the individual cell whence they arose. This individual cell may be looked upon as the torch-bearer of animate life. It passes on from generation to generation the latent fires of God, the vitality of all living beings, with an unbroken ancestry, reaching back to the time when the life first appeared on this planet. This individual cell has the property of unlimited youth. But what about the group cells called the body? The group cells arose from the individual cell, repeated many times, retaining its individual characteristics, one of which is the latent fire of life, or eternal youth. The group cells, or body, function as guardian of the individual cell only during the short span of life as you know it now. The most ancient of our teachers, by inspirational means, perceived the truth of the fundamental unity of life reactions in plant and animal. We can well imagine these teachers beneath the spreading banyan addressing their pupils as follows. Look at this giant tree. The vital process going on in our brother this tree and in ourselves is fundamentally the same. Behold the leaves and the buds at the tip of the oldest banyan. How young they are, young as the seed from which the giant sprang into life. The life reactions of plant and man being alike, man can certainly profit by the experience of the plant. As the leaves and buds at the tips of the branches of the oldest banyan tree are young as the seed whence it sprang, even so the group cells in man forming his body need not gradually lose their vitality and die, but may grow young and evergreen as the ovum or individual cell itself. Indeed, there is no reason why your body should not grow as young and vital as the vital seed from which it sprang. The ever-spreading banyan, always a symbol of everlasting life, does not die except through accident. No natural law of decay, no old age process seems to exist within the banyan tree to affect injuriously the vital energy of its cells. The same is true of the human form divine. There is no natural law of death or decay for man except through accident. No inevitable old age process exists within his body or group cells. Nothing that can gradually paralyze the individual. Death is, then, an avoidable accident. Disease is, above all, dis-ease, absence of ease, or shanti. Sweet, joyous peace of the spirit reflected through the mind in the body. Senile decay, which is the common experience of man, is but an expression that covers his ignorance of cause, certain disease conditions of mind and body. Even accidents are preventable by appropriate mental attitude.